3.2, surface area. The surface area of a three-dimensional object is the area of each side of an object, the area that each side of an object occupies, and it's just added together. So your steps are, number one, determine the object that you're dealing with. Okay, are you dealing with a cylinder? Are you dealing with a rectangular prism? Select the correct formula. Substitute the values into the formula and solve for the surface area. Now, you will all have a sheet, or you should all have a sheet, that has the geometric figures on it with both the surface area and the volume. So these are the formulas that we are going to be using today. I won't go through each of the formulas right now, but I'll kind of run through it a little bit with each example. So find the surface area of a rectangular prism measuring 3 feet by 4 feet by 6 feet. So I'm going to call this one length, I'm going to call this one width, and I'm going to call this one height. It doesn't really matter in the surface area of a triangular prism which one's, a rectangular prism which one's which, just that it's consistent through the formula. So if I go onto my sheet here and I see a rectangular prism, this right here is our formula. So what I want to do first is I want to copy down the formula and then substitute the values in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this smaller here so that I can see this as I'm writing, because I want to be consistent. So the surface area is 2 length width plus 2 width height plus 2 length height. Okay, so I said that length is going to be 3. So wherever I see an L, I'm going to write 3. And I said that width is 4, so wherever I see a W, I'm going to write a 4. And height is 6, so height and height. So I'm going to say 2 times 3 times 4 plus 2 times 4 times 6 plus 2 times 3 times times 6. So this is going to be 12 times 2 is 24, plus 4 times 6 is 24, times 2 is 48, and 3 times 6 is 18, times 2 is 36, for a total surface area of 108. I'm going to make sure that I have my units feet squared. Because it's a final answer, I like to box my answers in. So the surface area of a rectangular prism is a pretty easy formula to use, and the cylinder is not too difficult either. So it says find the surface area of a cylinder with a height of 6 centimeters and a diameter of 8 centimeters. The only piece here that's a little bit iffy is you have the diameter of 8 centimeters. When I look at my formula sheet, I'm seeing that the surface area needs radius. So 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So first things first, I'm just going to write the formula down. So the surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. But the diameter here, and I think that you can see it actually on here, the diameter, if you divide it by 2, you get your radius, because if all along the top here is the diameter, half of it would be your radius, so you divide it by half. So I'm going to say that the height is 6, and the radius is going to be 8 divided by 2, so it's going to be 4. So whenever I see a height, I'm going to put in 6. And whenever I see r, I'm going to put in a 4. So first things first, I'm just going to substitute in the values. Sorry about that. Okay, so 2 pi, not r, but 4 squared plus 2 pi times 4 times height, which is 6. So a very common mistake actually is when students type in 2 times pi times 4 squared, they go 2 times pi times 4, and then they hit the equal button, and then they square that whole thing. They're not taking into consideration the proper order of the order of operations. Remember, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you do the exponents first, always, always. So just to be safe, what I'll do is I'll say 4 squared times pi times 2. I get 100.53. I'm going to say plus. Go back here. 2 times pi times 4 times 6 equals 150.796, so that's 150.8. When I add those two things together, it is going to be 251 and 0.33. Now I need to keep it into consideration the units, so it's going to be centimeters squared. Always squared for surface area. Find the surface area of a cone with a slant height of 4 inches and a diameter of 6 inches. So I am going to look at this right here. Make sure that there is an S right here. Okay, make sure that you know that this right here is the slant height. We have a cone here. This is the height, okay, and this is the radius, and the slant height is the one on the side. So our height we need for our volume formula, so don't worry, we will still use it. But for the surface area of a cone, we just need that slant height. So I'm going to write it down. A good little math student. So the surface area equals pi rs plus pi r squared. Okay, so let's see what we have here. The slant height of 4 inches, so S equals 4, and a diameter of 6. But again with the diameter thing, so we need to make sure that we have the radius. So we need to go, since the diameter is 6, we need to divide it by 2, and we get 3. So I have my S here. I'm going to highlight my R in green. So whenever I see yellow, I'm going to put in a 4, and whenever I see a green, I'm going to put a 3. So pi times R, which is 3, times S, which is 4, plus pi times R, which is 3 squared. I'm going to take my trusty dusty calculator here, so pi times 4 times 3. I think I said that backwards, but that's okay. So it's 37.699, which is 37.7. 70 plus. Remember, it's the same thing here. 3 squared, which is 9, times pi equals 28.27. So I'm going to say 28.27 plus 37.7 equals 65.97. And remember, our units are inches, so inches squared. Put a box around it because it's my final answer. Woot! Alright, so this is the spicy meatball. This is the triangular prism. I want to take a little bit of time to look at the formula because there are a few kind of sections of it. So if I would look at this right here, I'm going to say the triangular prism. I'm just going to take a moment here. So the surface area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So that's this part right here. And remember, we have two triangles. When you want to find all the sides of the prism, it's S1, so this length right here. So S1 times L to get this, to get that rectangle. We have S2 times L, which is the area of this rectangle, and then B times L, which is this rectangle on the bottom. So what you want to do to find the total surface area, you want to take 2 times the area of that triangle, and then you want to add the sides, and that's how you get your surface area. So let's just take a moment and write down what the formula is here, and give yourself a little bit of space. So I'm going to say, okay, the surface area, and I'm just going to shorten it, the triangle equals 1/2 base times height. And then we have the surface area of the sides. I'm just going to call it S equals S1 L plus S2 times L plus the base times L. So, and then we just know that we have to add them together and make sure that we multiply the triangles by 2. So let's just take a moment right now and highlight the numbers that we need here. So whenever I see a B, it's going to be this value right here. Whenever I see an H, that's this value right here. That's the height. So that's this line right here at a 90-degree angle with the base. So our S1 and S2, I'm saying that there's a ticky mark there and a ticky mark there. That means that these two sides are exactly the same. So this is going to be 7 centimeters as well. So I'm going to say that this one is S1, and this one right here is going to be our S2. And, oh, I forgot to highlight this B here. And we need to also have the L. So I'm going to use an orange for that. So L and an L and an L right there. So that's the length. So now that we've color-coded everything, we're going to say 1/2 the base times height. So 1/2 4 times 6. So that's 1/2 of 24, which is 12. I'm going to put a circle around it because I know it's an important number that we'll get back to. S1 is 7 times L, which is 12, plus S2, which is 7 times L, which is 12, plus the base, which is 4 times L, which is 12. Okay, so we have an 84 plus an 84 plus a 48. I do believe that is 216, but let me just double check that. It's getting a little bit late. Oh, not times. Holy! Let's clear that. So 84 plus 48 equals, yes, 216. So you have 216. So remember, the total surface area of the rectangular prism is going to be 2 times the surface area of the triangle plus the surface area of the sides. So that's going to be 2 times 12 plus 216. 2 times 12 is 24 plus 216. That's going to be 240. Remember the units, centimeters squared. Now I can put a box around this one because that's my final answer. Okay, so whenever you see a sphere, you kind of do a little happy, happy dance of joy because it's actually pretty easy. The formula is pretty simple. So when I look at the surface area for the sphere, it's just going to be 4 times pi times r squared. So that's going to be surface area is 4 times pi times r squared. So I know that my radius is 6, no fancy footwork with the diameter there, so all I need to do is 4 times pi times 6 squared. So I'm going to take here, so 6 times 6 is 36 times pi times 4, which is 452.39 millimeters squared. And that's it. So easy. Okay, so let's look at the pyramid. Now this has a square bottom pyramid. So let's look at the formula for that. So a square-based pyramid is going to have a surface area of 2 times BS, which makes me giggle, plus B squared. So the B is always our base, and the S is kind of like on our cone. It's the slant height. So I'm just going to move this over here and make sure that I copy down the formula. So, surface area equals 2BS plus B squared. Now I know that my base is 6. I know that my slant height is 5. So I'm going to say the surface area is 2 times the base, which is 6, times the slant, which is 5, plus the base, which is 6 squared. 2 times 30 is 60, plus 36, which is going to be 96. And there are no units, so we can just leave it blank. That's totally fine. Or if you want to be real fancy-dancy, you do units. Squared. Just like that. Put a box around it. Nice job.